In this video, you will learn how to create YouTube thumbnails just like the one you clicked on in 5 steps using Photoshop. Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. My name is Bill, and as I said earlier, in today's video I'm going to explain how you can create YouTube thumbnails just like the one you clicked on, which is guaranteed to get you those clicks and also push your CTR through the roof. But before we begin, I want to let you know that on this channel I post videos related to photo editing, graphic design and Photoshop. So if that's something you'll be into, make sure to subscribe, and without wasting any more of your time, let's get straight into today's video. So when you open Photoshop at the home screen, come to File and New. And here we are creating our canvas. Change the width of the canvas to 1280 pixels and change the height to 720 pixels. And you can leave the settings here just as they are and click create. Now we have our canvas. Now let's bring in our subject. Come to File and Place Embedded. Now select your subject and click on Place. Click Enter. Now we are going to select out our subject, and there are many processes you can use, but because we are lazy, we are going to use the quick selection. So come up here to select and come down to subject. Now Photoshop creates an automatic selection around your subject. Depending on the image you are using, it might be very accurate, but most images will not be 100% accurate. So zoom in and fix some of the weird selections like this part. So select your quick selection tool and make sure you have the minus selected and unselect these parts. So if you have the selection going into your image like this, you can also select the plus and then reselect those parts. So it's not that lazy after all. And reduce the size. You can use the square brackets to reduce the size of your quick selection tool and select tiny holes like this one. Zoom in by clicking Z and now when you are satisfied with your selection, just click on the mask icon here and you have your selection. You can click Ctrl T to increase the size of your subject to your preferred size. Yes, now when you are satisfied with your selection, it's time for the background. So I'm going to use this background of a forest. Click enter. You can use any image, any background image you like, because we are going to darken it anyway. So to darken it, come to your new adjustment layer and select exposure. Now clip it to your background and reduce the exposure. Reduce it to a very low amount because we don't really need to see it too much. We need to see our subject more. And then after creating this, it's time to create some light behind our subject to make the thumbnail pop. So come to your new adjustment layer icon and select solid color. For our image, we are going to use orange color. So make sure you select the orange color you like. And click OK. Now invert the mask by clicking Ctrl I and select your brush tool. Use the square bracket key to increase your brush size to your preferred size. Make sure it's big. Make sure it's big, and then flow 100, opacity at 100, and change your foreground color to white. Now change the hardness to soft round. and make sure your blend mode is at linear dodge. Now paint behind your subject. After this, create another solid color again, and this one make it white. Invert the marks as we did at first and reduce the size on this one, and make sure you paint some onto her back. This gives that nice glow effect that we want. You can add a little more of the orange as well. Yes, now this looks good to me. Now the next thing we are going to do is to create our text. So create a new layer for your text and come to your text tool here. Select the horizontal one, and I'm going to use the font type called Hating Schweller. I've already selected it, and then type in your text. So I'm first going to type how to design now. Click correct and duplicate this text. So click Ctrl J. Now after duplicating it, click Ctrl T and drag it down. Now we are going to change this to YouTube. Type YouTube. Now I made it separate because I wanted to make it very big so that it pops on the thumbnail. So click Ctrl T and increase the size, because that's one of the key important things we want our viewer to see. YouTube. And then click Ctrl J to duplicate that layer as well. Click Ctrl T to bring it down and change it to thumbnail. Now let's make that a little bit smaller. Awesome. Now we are going to write that pops. So duplicate that again, Ctrl J, and bring that down and change the text to that pops. Now let's reduce the size on that one a little bit as well and put it over here. Now let's change the colors of the color on our YouTube thumbnail to a yellow color, and the same color for the thumbnails as well. Now I'm going to group all our text layers. So hold shift and select the bottom text to select all of them and click Ctrl E. Now right click and convert to smart objects. Now come to your effects and blending options. We are going to add a drop shadow to it. So click on the drop shadow and you can see our drop shadow is over here. You can change the figures to match your preferred figures. So I'm going to just change some of the figures. So this looks fine to me, and click OK. Now to one of the most important things, which is the highlights on our subject. So to do the highlights, select your subject layer and come down to your new adjustment layer icon and select exposure. Now click on this icon to clip it to your subject and increase the exposure. Increase it to a very bright exposure. So this is okay. Great. Now invert the mask by clicking Ctrl I and zoom in to the spots you want to create your highlights. You can use the square brackets to increase or reduce your brush size and change the flow to somewhere around 15. Now start painting your highlights. Make sure your foreground color is also white and paint your highlights. So I'm going to speed up the process for you. You can do it at your own pace when you are creating your thumbnails. Okay, now I'm done with the highlights. So this is before we created the highlight and this is after. You can see it adds something nice to our subject. Now it's time to add color to our subject. So come to your new adjustment layer icon and select hue and saturation. Click on colorize to colorize your image and clip it to your subject and change it to our preferred orange color and increase the saturation all the way to 100. Now increase the lightness a little bit. It looks okay. And now hold Alt and drag this mask we have for our exposure to your hue and saturation adjustment mask and drop it. Click yes and you see the highlight has gotten some color to it. Now we want to paint it to cross the edges alone, so we are going to do that. Just zoom in and select your brush tool. Now change the flow to somewhere around 5. We need it to be a bit softer, so paint it onto your subject. Yes, so this is before and this is after. You can see we have some beautiful highlights on our subject. Now we are going to add some few touches to it. So let's add some particles to our thumbnail. Come down to the layer in between the white and our subject. So we want to create it right behind our subject. So bring in your particles, and with this type of particles you can find a lot of them on Google. So you can just go on Google and search particles and you get a lot of these, but whichever one you choose, make sure the background is black so that it's very easy to input it into your image. Now come to your blend mode and change it to screen. Now reduce the opacity on the particles. You want it to be subtle in there, so yes. Now with around 30, we can just add a little bit of motion blur to it. Come to filter, blur, and motion blur. You can just reduce the distance a little bit. The distance around 10 looks okay, and then click OK. Yes. Now for the text on here, whatever this gadget is, I'll search the name one day. So I'm going to write hooked on there. So to write your hooked, just create a new layer and type in the hooked. I'm going to use the same font we've been using right from the beginning. So I'm going to write hooked. And then place it right onto this device. Yes. Now let's add some glow to it so it looks like it's glowing on the gadget. So come to your blended options and select outer glow. Yes, color blue looks very nice. You can increase or reduce the opacity and yeah, the spread as well. This is just something very simple. We can also add a little bit of inner glow. So with the inner glow, can also reduce the opacity, and that's it. That's okay. You can click OK. Now our thumbnail is almost done. I think that's okay. So I'm just going to type in the get them and then add the arrow to it. So I'm just going to speed that up. Yeah, and that's pretty much it for your thumbnail. So when you create thumbnails like this, definitely your viewers are going to click because this is awesome. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed my content, don't forget to leave a like and also subscribe to see more awesome tutorials from me in the future. And I'll see you in my next video.